we just want to cover our bases while we're trying to gather your records and get you in to see the neurologist to get all this stuff tested. It sounds to me like you just have never really gotten what you need. You may have had the imaging, but you haven't had the electrophysiologic test.
And the treatment plan and all those things that are required for me to fully recover, that's the most important thing. My biggest thing is just always worrying about not having enough resources to be able to finally fully recover and obtain monetary relief for me and my family. And that was my biggest downfall, because I was always sad about that.
Right.
And I was always worried about that. So now that I have, a clean place to live, a clean environment, the air quality is not compromised, there's no mold and filth and pests, there's no, people who, I would say toxic people who tend to be in those types of environments,
right,
where there's mold and filth and pests.
Yeah.
So none of that is where I am now. And I have a limited amount of money in my savings account to where, and some resources to where, I could buy food,
right,
I could, afford my necessary living necessities and things like that, but it's limited.
right,
And I don't know how long, it's going to continue the
right,
way it's continuing. So the stress of the situation is not as it was in South Florida, in the sense of, me living in toxic
right,
environments and not having enough money to afford my necessary living necessities at the least, let alone my goals that I'm trying to accomplish. But I noticed that ever since I've been eating just like fruits and vegetables, excuse me, I burped, and veggie burgers and just healthy foods and things like that, I noticed, a lot of the, how could I say, irritableness went away, and I kind of did like a self-experiment type of thing, but when I would eat meats and pizza and things like that, I noticed immediately it would trigger some kind of like chemical imbalance in my body, as if there was chemicals in those types of food, and it would make me feel aroused, and make me want to ejaculate and things like that, things that I didn't really care too much about doing, and I didn't notice how much it was influencing me, my mood and just my decision making so much. But I noticed as soon as I stopped eating meat and pizzas and all those things, and just started eating healthy food, veggie burgers and fruits and things like that.
The less processed food you eat, the less fat you eat, the better you're going to feel. There's no question.
Yeah, it's like night and day.
Oh yeah, and fast foods is a fast track to death. They say every time you pass through the Golden Arches, you're that much closer to the pearly gates.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I was surprised too. I was like, man, more people should know about this type of stuff.
People just they don't care. It's just you watch what I see the lines in front of these fast food places, even in front of Starbucks all the time. And people buying these $6-7 coffee drinks and tropical smoothie type drinks that are so full of sugar and fat. It's crazy. It's just people. This country is worse than any other country. When I first started practicing 40 years ago, maybe 15% of the population was obese. Now it's 40%. And in some states, it's 40% morbidly obese. That means twice their body weight. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And not just that. I remember I couldn't even figure it out. Like when I was in South Florida, for example, because of how toxic it was and things like that, I couldn't figure out what the problem was. I always thought it was just, that's just how life is, and it's not. Like the toxicity of the environment, and then me, I remember several times I try to eat healthy. I eat fruits and vegetables and things like that, and I started feeling a little bit better, but then again, and then right away I started feeling bad again and things like that. And I couldn't figure out what it was. It wasn't until I started living in a brand new house where there wasn't any toxicity, and I started eating healthy. That's when I immediately noticed it was my environment.
Sure.
You know, and it's just, I feel bad.
You want to make sure you wash fruits and vegetables good. Just, either they usually are washed before they end up in the grocery store. Just, especially if you're buying them out of the bin because people have been touching them. But even so, pesticides and herbicides are used in the food process. It's just always good to wash everything, even when it comes prepackaged. Just so you're not, because we have people that have cirrhosis of the liver, and their liver can't handle toxins, and so we have them. They can't eat raw seafood, and they have to like really scrub their veggies and fruits before they eat them, just to be safe. But it sounds like, I mean, clearly you made some good decisions about not smoking anymore and eating healthy. You're in a healthy environment, so all that's good. All right, listen, I gotta go. So,
so I noticed I started feeling sick all of a sudden.
Right.
It's just within like that 1 minute I was talking to the driver of the vehicle.
Right.
And so my head started hurting. I started feeling like a sickness type of feeling going all through my body. My neck started hurting really bad. It was similar symptoms to like coronavirus or something, but I remember once before I went to the emergency room for something similar. They told me it wasn't coronavirus, it was reactive airway disease.
Well, if that reactive airway disease is asthma, and you get around smoke, the wrong smells, the wrong fumes, it can trigger that, and you actually wheeze. So if you get a sensation of you're having trouble breathing, sometimes you can actually hear yourself making a little squeaky noise when you take a real deep breath or exhale really hard. That's reactive airway disease, and it can come on just like that. Not just the lungs, that's reactive airway disease or asthma, but you can have what we call vasomotor rhinitis, where the same thing happens with the nose and sinuses, where just suddenly, a sudden change in humidity, temperature, or the wrong smells, and you can clog up like instantly. My wife would do if she walks into like a moldy basement. She'll just immediately can't breathe through her nose. And so that's just reactive tissues here instead of here. And it may have been something in that taxi that triggered that.
Yeah, it was really dirty. Didn't look safe at all for me to sit inside either. And just about the driver himself telling me that it just looks dirty, and me witnessing that it's filthy, that
Right.
I automatically knew, okay, if I get in a vehicle with this guy, I'm going to end up contracting some kind of sickness.
All right, so are you okay with trying these medications?
So I'm all right on the psychiatric medications, but I don't want any psychiatric medications. But if you have something maybe for like the neck pain, that'll help.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to do anything other than like the ibuprofen and a muscle relaxer. I mean, I'm not going to do like strong pain medicines.
Yeah, I think the ibuprofen that I have is expired or something.
I can reorder that for you. We had in your chart both 600 and 800. Do you prefer the 800?
Well, whichever one is not going to make my stomach hurt. I mean,
As long as you don't take it more than twice a day, your stomach, if you go at least 8 hours without taking it, it gets out of your bloodstream and your stomach has a chance to recuperate. When you take it around the clock, then it can really bother your stomach. So,
yeah, another thing too, I forgot to mention too. I think I've got a deviated septum.
Mm-hmm.
I blew my nose. Early this morning, I blew my nose and blood came out. That's been happening quite a bit.
Which may explain your reaction to that dirty taxi too. If you have rhinitis, which is like inflammation of the nasal passages, which is super common in North Florida because of all the trees and pollen and everything, then you may have that vasomotor rhinitis where some smells will trigger that. So a deviated septum, I didn't see that when I looked at you earlier. That just means that when you look inside the nostrils, instead of it being straight, it deviates, and so one nostril's wide open, the other's like partly closed off.
I'm noticing when I'm breathing in,
Right.
the right side seems like it's clogged or something.
Actually, you may have.
Yeah, actually, it is, but it's not. Your septum does bulge this way a little bit, although this side doesn't really go that way. But the reason it's clogged is partly because the septum goes that way a little bit, but also the turbinate is kind of swollen more on the right side. So you have three sets of turbinates that warm the air when you breathe through your nose. They're just like finger-like projections that have a lot of blood flow in them. And so, I mean, you could just, stick your finger in your nose, your fingernail, bam, hit that, and you bleed like crazy. But that warms the air when you breathe through your nose. And that side's more swollen. So between the septum deviating a little bit and that being swollen, it's just not letting the air get through there real good. So, so if I close this and I'll take a breath. Yeah, so you're moving air good there. And then this one, yeah. So that's all that is. Don't buy the, let me just listen to your lungs again too. Don't buy the decongestant sprays from the drugstore because they're really bad for you, like the Afrin and stuff. They shrink all those tissues and make you breathe good. But the more you use them, the more you need them, and you get addicted to them. And you can't breathe without them because you keep re-swelling. So we don't do that. If you have a lot of issues with the sinuses and nose a lot, we use an actual diluted steroid spray that keeps your tissues from overreacting to everything. And those are perfectly safe. Let me get some back here. Deep breath. Out. Again. Out. Again. Out. Hurts the top of my head.